Hey guys, how's it going and welcome to the Minute channel. Before we start this video, as you can see by the title, this is going to be ranking all the Persona 4 Golden dungeons, including a particular dungeon that is not here. That being said, I want to warn everybody about the fact that this is going to be containing spoilers, so please click away if you have not played or finished Persona 4, either Persona 4 or Persona 4 Golden. I just don't want people to get spoiled or anything like that, because I will be discussing spoilers, particular parts of the game that you may be spoiled and you may be your experience maybe ruined due to this. So let's go ahead and check this video out. So we're going to start with the first one here. I want to start from right to left, as everything gets more spoilery as we go here. So we're going to start with the first dungeon that we get here, which is the dungeon for Yukiko here. Now this is gonna be an A tier dungeon for me. Now let's go ahead and talk about this. We're ranking the dungeons based on a bunch of different stuff. Now all of these dungeons are not very good because they're randomly generated, so we're taking this in consideration as a thing. So don't think that S rank is gonna be the best dungeon ever. It's not. It's just within the boundaries of what we had for Persona. This is what we have, so keep that in mind as we rank this. I don't want you to be like, oh, this is why didn't you rank this other dungeon in this other game? No, this is, we're talking about just Persona 4 in this particular moment. So to me, it's an A rank dungeon for a couple different reasons. Mainly, I love the way that they developed this dungeon. This dungeon feels kind of like handcrafted to a sense, although still randomly generated. Certain floors and certain levels are pretty well made. Team wise, I love the way that this is the best. This is the first dungeon in the series, so it does kind of fit the team that they're going for and everything. Overall, I feel like this is pretty well set up, and the execution area is pretty good. There's a lot of different teams going on and everything. I really find this dungeon interesting for different reasons, and I think it's a good dungeon a lot. I'm gonna give it an A. So next one in the list is actually Kanji's dungeon. Now Kanji's dungeon is gonna be a B for me. It's I'm actually might even lower it to a C, but I think a B is fine. Overall, the dungeon it's okay. It does lack some aspects, and it's just really repetitive. There doesn't feel like there's any connection to anything on itself. It can come across as pretty homophobic overall, so I'm not really gonna discuss the themes of this particular dungeon. But I don't think that it was really appropriate or it really fit the themes very well. It felt just a little random to me. Outside of Japan, this dungeon doesn't really make much sense. It does make sense in Japan, as there's a lot of particular aspects to it, but again, I'm not really gonna go into detail about it. But I do think that it's okay. It's not the worst. I'm actually just gonna lower it to a C. I think it's not a really good dungeon, and it just gets really repetitive overall. It doesn't feel like it was made as really good. Just don't like it quite a bit. Okay, next one is gonna be Rise's dungeon. Now Rise's dungeon is pretty okay. It does have again some adult themes, and overall it just doesn't really make sense at all. Like it's good, and a lot of the themes they went for and everything was pretty interesting, but I feel like this dungeon could have easily made something different, more thematic, like for example like a stage or something like that. She's an idol, she's not like a stripper or something like that. So finding the dungeon to be like a strip club didn't really make much sense. It's just kind of random. I know they were trying to go for the impact and kind of make it look like it was like, oh, something like that, but it doesn't really go anywhere, team wise or anywhere. It just doesn't feel like it was really well executed. Moving up next, the next dungeon here in the list is gonna be Mitsuos Dungeon. I'm gonna actually give it an S rank on this one. I love the 8-bit style they did to this dungeon. The dungeon is really well executed. The music is fantastic. Overall, we don't know much about this character in particular, but I do like a lot of the themes they went for. It's pretty well executed. This music is fantastic. The boss battle is pretty good, and I feel like these really touch on all the aspects as far as what I want for a cool dungeon. Although again, randomly generated, and some of the aspects didn't really make much sense. I really like the way the dungeon was made. This is easily one of my favorite dungeons in the game. Moving up next is gonna be Naoto's dungeon. I'm gonna give it a C as well on this one. This one is really repetitive. It does have some of the similar themes as Kanji's as far as the aspects of some stuff I really don't want to discuss about and everything, but I do feel like this one also had that kind of like everything just feels so samey. It's just all the same. You walk over and over again. It's just like it's the same thing over and over again. And it doesn't really add to anything. It's not a good dungeon. Overall, it's one of the more repetitive and not really adding to the experience or anything. Again, the themes on the game really didn't make more sense for this one. It's just not really well executed as well. Moving up next, we're gonna go with one of my favorite dungeons, and it's gonna be Nagakos. Now, Nagakos dungeon is really interesting because it's actually supposed to be like a heaven. Like, it looks like you're in the sky, in the clouds and everything. The music, heaven as well, which is the name of the song, is really good. And it's actually the only song in the entire dungeons which has lyrics and everything. The lyrics are really sad and it has like a good theme to it. Overall, the motif is pretty good. The boss battle is pretty interesting, and it's something that you actually didn't expect whenever you go through the dungeon and everything. You realize a lot of themes, a lot of stuff that is going on in her head and everything. So I feel like this is a really good dungeon. Music is fantastic, and the theme wise, it just fits really well for this one. So Nagakos dungeon is one of my favorites for sure. Moving up next, we have this. We actually have another dungeon before this too, but we'll go to the next ones here. So next one is gonna be Adachi's dungeon. We're gonna do an A for this one. This one theme wise makes sense because it's supposed to be like how much he hates Inaba as a town, and seeing Nagatsu Inaba, which is kind of the town, but like the opposite of it, is pretty interesting to look at. I really find it to be like one of the thematic speaking is pretty interesting because it's supposed to be the reverse of everything, and it makes sense. It's pretty cool. The music is interesting, but one thing that I do want to say is this one does feel kind of repetitive as well. They could have easily just adapted more of Inaba into this Nagatsu Inaba area and everything. They really didn't do much of that, and it kind of makes me a little disappointed on that because I could have expected a little bit more from this one. This could have easily been one of the most handcrafted dungeons in that aspect, maybe add more aspects to it, but it didn't, and it does suffer from that. But again, the idea of Nagatsu Inaba is pretty cool, and I really enjoyed it a lot, so that's why it's ranked in as an A. And the last one here that we have is gonna be Izanagi or Izanami, which it's gonna be a B for me. It's repetitive, but it's pretty cool and interesting the way that they set up the dungeon and everything. The twist to that is also pretty cool. I really enjoyed that as well. But again, I don't think that the dungeon had much imagination to it. It does feel really Japanese inspired, which is why I like it, but overall it's so repetitive. You keep walking on the same area over and over again. It doesn't really feel like it's really adding to the experience or anything like that. These dungeons overall have a mix of between really interesting and really boring walking, and this one doesn't really add much to that. But overall, I really like the theme and what they were going for on this one. It's just, again, some of the aspects as far as like how much you do and everything doesn't feel really good. The last one is not in here, but it's gonna be Marie's dungeon. I'm also gonna give it a B for the same reasons as the other one. It just doesn't really add much to it. In fact, I may even drop it to a C because there's additional stuff you have to do to unlock that one and everything, and it just doesn't feel like you really did much to the game and everything. Anyway, that is pretty much in this ranking of this video here. I actually thought I was gonna go through it with more stuff and everything, but I just didn't have much to say on a lot of these ones. Anyway, that is pretty much in this video here. What do you guys think? If you wanna do your own tier ranking, I'll leave a link so you can rank them yourselves and tell me what you think about it. Overall, I like doing this kind of videos, and I may do more in the future. Well, thank you so much for watching this. If you're new, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time.